What if you could turn your love of travel into not just a lifestyle, but a thriving business? Today, we are joined by Christina McEvoy, a travelpreneur who's built a six-figure business helping others do exactly that. So get ready for insights on entrepreneurship, creativity, adventure, and designing a life that you don't need a vacation from.
Welcome to the What Could Go Right podcast. We are your hosts, Erik, Orton.
And I'm Emily Orton.
And here we talk about personal growth and sailing. In 2014, we moved aboard a fixer-upper sailboat and bootstrapped a year sailing with our 5 kids, and it changed our lives forever.
We tell the whole story in our memoir, our book, 7 at Sea. On this podcast, we want to help you go from fear to freedom, one adventure at a time.
Christina, welcome to the What Could Go Right podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be with you guys. I've just loved getting to know you over the last several months, and it's an honor to be here.
Well, the feeling is totally mutual, and we're super excited to be able to share just your enthusiasm for adventure with all of our listeners. Hopefully, I know for sure they're definitely going to be inspired to maybe expand their horizons a little bit after.
Yeah, that's always a good thing.
So before we dive in, I just want to read a little bit about you so people know who you are a little bit more. Christina McEvoy is a travelpreneur who has built a multiple six-figure business through travel content creation and coaching others how to get paid to travel. Sounds good to me. She combines her passions for travel, entrepreneurship, and personal growth, sharing practical strategies for building an online creative business while designing a life filled with adventure and meaning.
All right. Did we miss anything that you want to make sure people know
about? That sums it up. I was like, hey, sign me up. Right?
Like, I sound pretty good. Let me. Yeah.
I should hang out with myself.
I was like, yeah, actually, it sounds better than I could have said that myself.
Awesome. Well, it has been fun getting to know you and your husband, Erik. And I know he's not on the podcast with us today, but I guess just for our listeners, we met at a mutual friends gathering.
Yeah,
it was the
a year
apple
ago,
cider
almost.
Party, and then we went out to dinner, and we had so much in common. And then we were delighted to be on your podcast and glad to have you on ours because we want to just kind of flip the script a little bit and learn a little bit more about you. So
yeah, awesome.
I think for everybody, it would be helpful to just some things that you've told us before, but if you don't mind repeating them, some just, your own experiences with how you've done what we call slow travel, traveling with your family.
Yeah.
And so I know you spent a couple of years, 2.5 years on the road. So why don't you give a little bit of background and then we'll just take it from there.
Yeah. So yes, I obviously have a love of travel, as it's apparent, and how we connected, the two of us, with that shared passion. And that taste of travel really kind of is just always been there. And then about 10 years ago, my husband and I were in Costa Rica, and we're like, hey, remember how we always talked about like living abroad with our kids, not just going on vacation and spending a week or two in another country, but like actually living abroad and experiencing more cultures on a deeper level. And we had talked about this dream like when we first got married. And this was actually, we just celebrated our 25th anniversary yesterday. So that's pretty wild. And
yes, we will put the links to your Instagram. You gave 25 awesome lessons.
Oh yeah, did you see that post? Yeah, that was fun to think about. I was like, I probably could have listed other 25, but that was like the most important ones. But anyway, so about 20-ish years ago, we were in Australia. It's funny how the dreams happen while we're traveling, because I think that's kind of what spurs our creativity and our fuel for what we envision our future of. But about 20 years ago, we were on a beach in Australia and celebrating our 4th anniversary then, and talked about this idea of like, someday we want to live abroad. And then, life happened, and grad school and kids and moving across the country. And then I went through cancer and just a lot of life things that kind of, I wouldn't say got in the way, because I don't think it's all meant to be how it's supposed to be, but just kind of put everything on the back burner. And then, like I said, 10 years ago, the dream kind of came alive again when we were in Costa Rica. And we came home and I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was like, I just felt this like really deep knowing of like, there's something here. Like, why do I keep thinking about this? And I would say I was the instigator of the dream, but Erik was equally on board with the dream. Like he was like, yeah, let's figure it out and let's do it. And so we came home from that trip and just started kind of like talking more about what that would look like. And we basically kind of gave ourselves 3 years to kind of figure it out, because we were not doing any kind of job that you could do remotely and make money. And we had just purchased a house. And so we were like, oh my gosh, like, what would we do? So like all these things we had to kind of figure out. And we said, let's just be realistic about this. And let's give ourselves 3 years to figure out how we would work remotely, or how we would make money on the road, and what we would do with our kids with school, and what we do with our house and like our dog and all these things. And at the time we were living in Boise, Idaho. And so we gave ourselves 3 years. And over the course of 3 years, like things got put in motion. I started my business as a travel photographer. I started a blog. That was where I first started. I started working with different companies, tourism boards, creating content for them. And I didn't really start monetizing until I started that in 2016, and it was about end of 2017 that I started making money and like seeing the fruits of my labors kind of start to pay off. And so by the end of 2018, we were able to sell the house. And then in January of 2019, we set off for our big, what I would call rural school adventure. And my husband had also found a job that he could do remotely as a physical therapist, which is kind of crazy because people are like, oh, I didn't know you could do PT remotely. And well, we live in a digital age now, and thankfully telehealth is on the rise. And so he was able to find a company that he was able to get employed with. And he actually is still employed with that company today, 6 years later, and do telehealth, remotely with his patients. And so he was able to, secure some income from that. And it wasn't enough income to like live off of, because he was only working part-time. But because I was also kind of doing my own thing and I'd started my business, even though it was still kind of new, we just took that leap anyways. And we're like, it's never going to be the perfect time. We're going to just do it. We're going to figure it out as we go. And I know you guys and we've talked about this before in my podcast too. You guys, we have similar journeys in that way of like, we're just going to figure it out as we go. Like, and I think it just took that leap of faith of like, it's never perfect. It's not going to be we're not going to have all the ducks in a row, but we're just going to trust that if things are lining up, that's a sign that it's the right path. And so we took that leap, took off in January of 2019 with one-way tickets to Guatemala, and scared. Like I remember thinking like, are we going to a midlife crisis right now? Are we crazy? Are we sure? But as soon as we got onto that airplane, I cannot even tell you, it was like this weight just lifted off my shoulders. And I remember getting really emotional about it and turning to Erik and being like, this is going to work out. Like, I just know it. Like, I don't know how it's going to work out, but somehow we're just going to figure it out, and we're going to work out, and it's going to work out. And I know that we're doing the right thing. And he like squeezed my hand and he's like, I agree. I think we're going to be just fine. And that just set off for the, 2.5 year journey and adventure that we had. So over the course of 2.5 years, we slow traveled in 12 countries in Central South America during COVID. So this was beginning of 2019. We left. We came home the end of July of 2021. And so, yes, it was very challenging at times when COVID happened, and it altered our travel plans. But ultimately, we didn't feel right about coming home when COVID happened. We're like, what are we going to do when we go home? We're already working online. Our kids are already doing school online. Like, nothing's going to really change. So we might as well just stay put and just, see where life takes us. And so we ended up just basically traveling even slower during COVID. So the last year and a half of our travels, we were only in 4 countries, I think, or 5. No, let's see. Chile, we were in Chile for 5 months at the beginning of COVID. Then we were in Ecuador for 4.5 months. Then we were in Brazil for 4.5 months. And then we were in Bolivia for 3 months. So yeah, 4 countries in just about a year and a half. And it was magical and amazing. And like I said, challenging at times because the world was like, it was a weird time. You guys probably remember, it was like weird. But at the same time, like we knew that we were supposed to just stay and just stick it out. And we had the most beautiful adventure and met some amazing people and really got to see how the world was affected by COVID outside of like the US, because, obviously everywhere was affected by COVID. But the developing world like really took a toll. And especially in these countries where tourism is a thing and now tourism is not really a thing. And for us to be able to be in these places like the Galapagos Islands or Iguazu Falls with no tourists was magical. And I mean, we got spoiled because we're like, we'll never get to experience places like this without, people again, but also really, really sad to see how tourism had affected the locals there and how desperate they were to, make money again and provide for their families. And, we always kind of felt like, we're just one family and, one small family that is trying to, boost the tourism. But we got to see how that affected the people that we worked with directly, like the guides that we had in the Galapagos. And like we had this amazing guide in Bolivia who basically went 9 months without any tourists. We were his first tourists, and he was like selling soap to like try to make ends meet while COVID was happening. And like, just, we had this most incredible week with him in the salt flats of Bolivia and like the desert. And we just went on this like crazy overland trip with like no tourists anywhere and no people really anywhere. And at the end of that trip, just like, he just gave us the most heartfelt like thank you, and just like thank you for like restoring my hope that tourism will come back. Thank you for like helping me provide for my family for the next few months. Like, just, so it was really magical to like see how we could make a small difference in the people's lives down there. And I just have such a like, I get emotional, but like I have such a love for like Latin America just because of that time. Like, to be able to really like get to know the people on a deeper level. And like, we spent a long time in these countries. And even though we were moving around a little bit within the country, like we got to just experience it was just a totally different experience than going to those countries now, and we just knew like that this is what we were supposed to do. And so the only reason why we came home was because our kids were ready to come home. My husband and I probably could have kept going, but ultimately our kids were feeling, the one of the biggest challenges during COVID was people weren't socializing as much. And what I mean is like, yes, we were still meeting people, of course, but there wasn't as much socialization going on. Like, we weren't going to church every week. Like, church was not happening for a year and a half that we were the last, year and a half of our travels, basically. And Latin America was a lot more like shut down than like America or even other places in developing countries where things kind of started to reopen. Those countries down there were a lot more fearful of what was happening. And so they were slower to reopen things. Yes, restaurants were reopening slowly, and hotels, but like church was not happening, or like gatherings like that were not happening. And so, and then, we just weren't meeting as many like families, because the first year of our travel, we met up with so many families that were kind of doing the same thing. And it just made our kids feel less alone. Like, because when they're teenagers, they need friends, they need that social time. And so,
can I jump in real quick? Can you just give a breakdown of your family so that everyone listening kind of knows your family and the ages?
Yeah.
And then keep going.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I meant to mention that. So we had 2 boys. And at the time when we left to travel full time, they were 10 and 13. And then when we came home, they were 13 and 16. So right in those kind of like tween teenage years where friendships are important and having a social life is important. So it was a little challenging that last year and a half because the boys grew really close together. And as a family, we grew really close, which is the most important thing. But my husband and I could tell that they were yearning for more social interaction with other kids. And there was some, but it was not as much as like that first year that we traveled full time. And of course, even though we had decent Spanish, like it's still that language barrier. And like, they were missing like being able to talk with friends in English. And so we came back because they were like ready. They were ready. They wanted to go. My oldest son wanted to finish high school. So he came back and, came in as a junior. We moved to Salt Lake then. And my other son was in 8th grade when we came back. So, just right in those formidable years for them. And it was the right decision, but it was definitely like hard for my husband and I because we just like loved having that family time together so much, and we could have kept going, but ultimately we don't want our kids to resent us forever for that. So yeah, that's the breakdown of our travels. We've been home for about 4 years now, which is just wild because it's gone by very fast. Our oldest son is on a mission. He's actually serving a mission right now in Honduras, and he comes home in 3 weeks.
What?
I know. I can't even believe it. And it's crazy that he's in Honduras because that was one of the few countries that we didn't get to when we were traveling in Central America the first year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we didn't go to Honduras and Nicaragua. And so Nicaragua was kind of going through some like really bad political stuff, and like
That might be one to skip for now.
yeah, and like even like our church like pulled the missionaries out. So we were like, yeah, maybe not a good sign to go there. I would go there now for sure, but in 2019 it was not a good time. And then Honduras we were going to go to, but we kind of like, I know, we picked the route based on like the expenses, and like it was cheaper for us to get to El Salvador instead of Honduras. And anyway, so we just didn't go to Honduras for like convenience, but he got called to Honduras, and he's going to be coming home in 3 weeks. So, and then we've got a kid that's a senior now. So our youngest is just started school today as a senior in high school.
Oh, back to school.
I know. So we're kind of in this like transition of like almost getting to that empty nester phase, and I feel too young to be at that phase in life, but
it's perfect timing because look how much energy you have.
Yeah, no, it's it's good. I think everybody that gets to that point says it's bittersweet. Like you're excited for your kids and like the season of life of like getting into adulthood and seeing what they end up doing with their lives, but then it's also extremely sad because you're for so many years you've been the caretaker and the one to fill their needs, and now it's like you're not that person anymore. Yeah. So it's a lot of mixed emotions, but mostly I would say I'm excited to see what happens in the future, and my husband and I have more dreams, so we'll definitely, it'll be a lot more travel. School puts a damper on things.
We may double back to the empty nester thing because we're the same.
Yeah, you guys are kind of in the same boat.
Our youngest starts her senior year tomorrow.
Oh my gosh! Wait, I thought you guys had like a 15-year-old.
No, she's turning 18.
Okay, so we're in the exact same place. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, and our youngest Lily, she has Down syndrome, and so we don't know. It might mean something different that we don't know yet. So we're going to figure that out. But she's still, she'll be done with high school.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, that changes our scheduling obligations, because there's no school.
She has loved it so much. It's been, none of our other kids went to high school, and she just really wanted to. And so it's been
public high school.
Yeah,
public high school.
So it's been a joy for her to participate in all the activities. So we kind
that's
of know,
awesome.
Like, this is her capstone year,
Yeah, that's special. That's really cool.
And we can support her there, but it will be different when high school is over for sure.
Yeah.
Whatever happens next. So maybe we'll circle back to that. But how did this family adventure then turn into travel business? Yeah.
So I mentioned this. So I started kind of my business, really kind of monetizing it in like 2017. So about 8 years ago. And then of course it's just grown from there. But when I first started it, I was mostly just blogging and navigating that whole world. But then also I was, I've always been a photographer kind of by nature. And so that always came natural to me. And so I was able to have success with like working with different companies, creating content for them. And then I was just getting asked by so many people that followed me on social media. I was like, how are you doing this? Like, you have all these incredible experiences. This is before we traveled full time. Like we were working with tourism boards in the States and working with like companies like Royal Caribbean. And I didn't even have like a big audience either, but I was having success with, having these contracts and relationships with these companies. And so I started thinking, maybe I should maybe create a course or like a coaching program where I can help other travel photographers do this, because I wanted to create a business traveling, of course, and that helped fuel our full-time travels, of course, and make that work financially. But also it was like such a joy for me to be able to do what I love and be able to travel with my kids and share those experiences with others. And and inspire them to also, travel in these places. Because Latin America is not a place that like people are really taking families to. And I mean, yes, they are, but it's not as common as like going to Europe. And it's just, Americans are just not as like keen on, unless you're really like an intrepid traveler. A lot of Americans, I say the typical American is like scared to go to South America. And I am like I have like such a desire to like break the stigmas and like places like that. Like, ooh, it just like fuels me so much, because I really want to show people like what you hear about on the media, it's not true, and it's a small, tiny, tiny percentage of a population that is, the problem, versus the rest of the country, which is just like you and I. We're just trying to take care of our families, and like, we all have the same desires, basically the same basic desires. And so being able to like do that and like inspire people to go to these places that they never thought about, it was such a cool thing to like be part of my business, like my why. And then I started this coaching program, and that was really kind of what exploded my business. I really wanted to get into the coaching space because I really do enjoy like coaching and helping people like build their own dream business and life. And so that's really been actually the bread and butter of my revenue and income for the last 5.5 years, is my coaching program. And then about 3 years ago, a little more than 3 years ago, I started leading group trips. And that was also something that came from my audience of people that are like, you guys go to the coolest places, you do the coolest things. Like, you're not like the typical, like, you're not doing the typical like family touristy things. You're not doing Disneyland, and not there's anything wrong with Disneyland, but like we were doing really off the beaten path, like adventures. And like, we really love to do outdoor stuff with our kids. And like, our kids have always been hiking and like skiing and doing that kind of stuff for their entire lives. And we have always, like, our family motto is we can do hard things. And so we've always pushed our kids to physically challenge themselves, because I think those physical challenges raise their confidence so much. And so we were just doing these really crazy adventures, like climbing these huge mountains in the Andes. And people are like, you're doing that with a kid? And I'm like, yeah, kids are way more capable than you think. And so that people were just, hey, would you ever like host a group trip? And like, I would love to travel with you. And so that kind of planted the seed of like, oh, well, that might be fun. But of course I was like, but what if it's not fun? Like, what if we get a bunch of crazy weirdos that, are like high maintenance and not go with the flow? And, I don't love it. And so we actually we launched the very first group trip in 2019. So we were traveling full time. It was the end of 2019. And we thought about, let's do a group trip while we're already down here in Peru, because Peru is such a desirable place for a lot of people to go. And we had built some relationships with some operators there that we really loved and had amazing experiences with. So with the help of them, we kind of put together this idea, or this group trip for families in Peru, launched that a month before COVID started. Ooh. And we'd had 2 families sign up, and then COVID started and we had to cancel the trip. And then I just decided, you know what, let's wait until like COVID's over. We're back home. Let's just put this on the back burner. So it wasn't until early 2022 that I decided, okay, I'm going to, let's test this out again. And so we did our first official group trip to Costa Rica, April of 2022. And that was a family group trip. And that was actually the only family group trip that we've done. We've only done one because they're harder to like fill. Especially when you've got different variables like budget for full family and schedules, and you've got the age range. And we really wanted just like older kids, like teenagers, because our kids were teenagers. And also we thought it would be more fun for them to just be with other kids at their ages. And anyways, it was just challenging to like find the right families that have the budget, the schedule, like, just a lot of things have to kind of line up. And I felt like, well, our kids are getting older. Like, how much more could we really be doing family group trips? So I went in the direction of like doing women's trips initially, and those were all successful. And I thought, okay, there's something here. And then we started incorporating couples trips the next year. And so now I do mostly women's trips, but I do a couple of couples trips a year as well. And it's just taken off. And now like my trips sell out in like a day, which is amazing. Most of them, not all of them, but a lot of them. And I feel like that's a sign that, you know, this is the direction I should go. And I really love it. I love the connections. I love seeing these women and couples like push them out of their comfort zone a little bit. And so far, I've been so lucky to have really easy people on these trips. So I wouldn't be doing it if I wasn't getting easygoing people. But so yeah, that's been another like part of my business that has expanded the last 3 years. And now I'm feeling more of a pull to kind of expand and scale that a little bit more, and let go of some things that I've maybe outgrown in my business. So this is a year of transition, you could say.
Okay, so if I'm tracking, you always had a love for travel and a knack for photography.
Yeah.
And you leveraged photography into portable
Business.
income.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you started developing relationships with travel boards and different companies. And that was part of what, it wasn't fully like paying for your whole life at that point, but it was part of what gave you that faith to take the leap for your family travel.
Yeah.
While you were out traveling as a family, you were like, maybe we could help other families do this.
Yeah.
You went through the entire logistics planning of it, but then the trip got canceled because of COVID. And so then your kids were like, we're ready to socialize again. You came home, quote unquote, which was like finding a new place to call home.
New home. Yeah.
Setting everybody up in a new.
Yeah. It was hard. That was a hard year.
Yeah, that's tough. And then once probably the dust hadn't completely settled from that, knowing you were like ready to start ramping up the next
endeavor.
And you were like, family trips are tricky. We found the same thing for all the same reasons.
Yeah.
But these women's trips have taken off. So right now you're have your own family. You're running your own business. Your husband is still working for that remote company.
Yeah.
You're doing coaching, and you're also now leading group travel trips, mostly for women, sometimes couples. And how many trips a year are you kind of averaging right now?
So the last 2 years, 2024, and then this year, I've done 6 a year. And that number has felt right, because I think if I was doing much more than that, it would be too much, especially with having a kid in high school still and not wanting to be gone too much, more than I already am. I figured out the other day that I'm basically gone for like 4.5 months out of the year, which is a lot for the average person. That's a lot, you know? Now, granted, he's with me on some of those trips because we're still traveling as a family, but the majority of those trips, since I have 6 group trips a year, he's not with me. And so I've been really just careful and intentional to not like scale that piece of my business more, because 1, I want to be present while he's still home. And 2, I don't want to burn out, you know, because I do love what I do, but I could see if I was doing this like on a big scale and me myself being the one to host every trip, that it would be too much eventually. And I don't want to get to that point. So the last 2 years, I've just done 6 a year. Next year, though, I am going to be vamping up, and I'm going to do an extra 4 or so trips on top of the 6 that I lead that will not be led by me. I have other amazing hosts that are going to be leading those trips. So it's exciting. It's kind of scary because I don't know how it's going to look, but I feel really right about that decision. And I've had some pretty like profound inspiration around that I feel like, okay, this is definitely a sign that I need to lean into. And it's cool because it gives me the opportunity to provide more of these opportunities for people without me being the one to physically be there to facilitate that experience, and to give these other amazing women that I know and trust and love an opportunity to share their love and passion and their own magic with the people that are on these trips with them, and bring kind of a similar vibe, because it's important for me to have like a similar vibe throughout all the trips, but like they're going to bring their own magic essentially. And I mean, it's to be determined how that goes. I haven't launched a trip yet. That is me not leading it. So that will happen very soon. So we'll see.
That's so exciting.
I know. I'm like, I just hope people go, because I don't want people to go just because like, oh, well, if she's not leading it, I don't want to go. Like, I don't want that. Like, I want people to go and just trust that whatever experience I put out there, it's going to be amazing. And the person that's going to be leading that is going to be awesome, you know?
Right.
And so
It's
I'm
a
just,
Christina McEvoy experience.
but it's still like, you know, it's someone
Right.
else leading it. That's going to be
Right.
just as, maybe even better than me, you know, like
That's what I mean. Like a Christina McEvoy experience led by
so-and-so. Yeah.
this amazing woman, this amazing woman, this amazing woman. You'll get to know her.
Because all the group trips are going to have the same theme across the board. And one thing that I've been leaning into more this year, which has been very profound for me, is so my trips are adventure based. All my group trips are definitely adventure focused. There's hiking, there's a lot of outdoor activity involved. And there's also cultural experiences, especially when we're in a country where there's a unique cultural, aspect to that, like Morocco or Bali or Vietnam or somewhere like that. You know, I really, really love having those immersive cultural experiences, but it's a largely adventure focused. And I love that because one, that's the core of the kind of travel that I love to do, but also I love pushing people out of their comfort zone. Like we pushed our kids out of their comfort zone and we've seen the benefits of that. Like our son just got home from a 3-day backpacking trip in the Tetons, 40 miles in 3 days. And on the last day they did 20 miles. And he was the kid that was like ahead of everyone, like just totally fine. And I'm like, this is what I love is like, I'm helping my kids like see what they're made out of and like making them not just strong hikers, but like strong mentally. And I want to do the same for the people that are coming on my trips is like push them a little bit out of their comfort zone and make them do hard things because that's where the growth is. And so that's the big aspect of it. But then this year I've been leaning more into and just feeling more called to it. Like having the people the participants that are coming, I want them to have more of an inward experience too, because what I have found on these group trips is it's transformative in itself and the experiences that we're having and the connections they're making with each other. But I felt for a while that there was something missing. And what I figured out was missing about a year ago was that there's not a lot of opportunity for them to go inward. Because there's like, we're always with each other, you know, and, yes, and it's amazing. And the friendships and connections are awesome. But I really have seen in just all the conversations that I've had with, especially the women who are in their midlife, like I am, that they're so busy and they're like in this period of life where they're kind of figuring out like what's next for me. Because their kids are older, maybe they're kind of getting closer to that empty nest phase, or maybe they are at that stage and they're kind of just feeling a little bit lost and disconnected with who they are as an identity as themselves instead of just as mom or wife or whatever, you know? And I've seen this like the common thread throughout all my trips. And I really want to empower these women to like know what they're capable of and know that like this second half of their life or second season of their life is going to be just as amazing, if not more amazing. And to like look forward to that and to like dream again and like find who they are inside and like what interests them as a person, not as a mom, not as the, you know, the wife or whatever, but just who are you, you know, and what do you want from your life? And it's been really cool to just have these conversations. And so this year I've kind of been leaning into how can I facilitate some experiences that will help them kind of go inward and figure out what that looks like for them and also build that confidence in who they are and just feel like limitless. And so I've been doing these guided meditations on my last few group trips and it's been incredible. And it's a learning process for me too, because it's like so new for me to do that in a group setting. Like I've always done that myself just personally, but in a group setting, it's like a whole different thing. But ultimately I've felt like that's what was missing is let's have some experiences too, where the women can really go inner and like have that self-discovery of who they are and reconnect to themselves in a different level and walk away feeling like their life has been changed. And so that's really the goal.
Transformative travel.
Yes. In fact, that's my slogan is travel that transforms. Yes.
I love how it circles back to exactly what you were saying at the beginning, which I took a note of. You said, dreams happen when you're traveling.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because your mind is
And
open.
so
When your mind
we've
is
seen that
open.
too
Yeah.
with many of our clients. I know on this recent trip to Croatia, one of the things I was so inspired about what were the conversations that I was having with these other women about the enthusiasm that they have for what they've been doing for decades, but
Yeah.
also this like expansive vision that they're bringing to bear now,
Yes.
that there's just an increase of bandwidth as their caregiving responsibilities have decreased.
Yes.
So that's great. I'm excited for you.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool to be part, like a little piece of that journey,
Yeah.
of just like, I've seen these light bulb like moments in some of these women, and to just know that like I was a small, tiny piece, and that is like such an honor. And it feels like, oh yeah, I'm definitely called to do this. Like, this is for sure the path I'm supposed to be on right now in my season of life. And it's scary, but it's also like incredible to just help people rediscover that part of themselves. And like you said, travel does make you expansive because it brings out that curiosity in you again. And it takes you out of your environment, your routine, and it puts you into a whole new environment. And that just that alone expands your mind. So I just love to like facilitate these experiences where the expansion is even at a deeper level, than just like the normal fun adventures that we have. Like, those are just going to happen, but let's take it a little bit deeper too.
I think one more thing that I love about this is that you are living what you are teaching, or what kind of experience you are trying to create.
Yeah.
You're like, maybe I've been to this country many times,
yeah,
but I've never guided this group. I haven't done this anywhere. I haven't like set up another leader to do that. You're continuing to grow and expand and say, I'm pushing myself to do something that's a little bit scary. And I also love that what I'm seeing is this magic equation that you have, which is part data driven, where you're like, I'm identifying a problem. People are asking me these questions, and you have this data, which I'm sure is part of your coaching as well.
Feedback.
But it's part data driven, and it's part, to use your phrase, deep knowing.
Yeah.
And so that part is a little harder to teach, and it would require inner reflection and the meditative component.
So much.
I'm sure is also part of your coaching.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, I'm just curious because, our trips are a boat. It's a very unique thing. Being on a boat is a new experience for most people, living on a boat for sure.
We do it adventure-based too, where it's immersive and still.
And, we did an episode recently with a good friend of ours, and she leads guided hikes through the Alps.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And when I think about hiking through the mountains, I was raised a certain way. We would sleep in tents on the ground or in hammocks, and we're backpacking and we're cooking our food. And that is not these trips. There you're hiking from hut to hut.
Yeah.
And a hut is, you show up and
you have a cook. You have a bed.
You're making like warm, delicious food. Your baggage gets delivered to the hut, by a car.
Yeah.
And, you take a day pack. And so I'm like my mind is exploding, realizing I didn't even know this was a kind of travel that existed in the world.
Yeah.
Do that too.
It's like soft adventure. Soft adventure.
So I'm just curious, for somebody like myself or somebody else that doesn't know the nuts and bolts of a Christina McEvoy trip. Yeah. Are you sleeping in the ground? Are you sleeping in Airbnbs? Are you, you were telling a story before we hit record where you're moving from one place to the next in a van. Just kind of walk us through what a sample trip might look like in terms of accommodations.
Yeah.
How do you arrive on the same airplane, or do you meet at the airport? What kind of, how does the shape of it? Walk us through that.
Okay. Yeah. So, first of all, we have a meeting airport, and it's like, for example, in Norway, I was recently hosted a trip in the Lofoten Islands, which is in the Arctic Circle in Norway. By the way, if you guys have not been there, I am telling you, top 3 destinations I've ever been to. Like, my mind was blown the entire week. I was like, where am I? Like, what dimension am I? This is like wild. But so I had a meeting place. Like, So they had to fly from wherever they live at home to Oslo, and then get a connecting flight to Svolvær, which is the nearest airport in the Lofoten Islands in the Arctic Circle. So that was their meeting place. They have to just get themselves there. And I have all the information, like this is the date arrival time. I give them the airport. I give them tips on how to book those flights. I don't book those flights. That's not my business.
Is this the archipelago? Is this the archipelago that's like way up north?
Way up north. Yeah.
I've been looking at a ski trip there, like literally this week.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Okay. So,
I will say though, I heard from a couple local guides though, like the snow's a crapshoot there, just so you know, like it's a cool
I'm not a great skier. I wouldn't even know.
Tips.
But it's not like you're not going to have Utah snow there. Let's just put it that way.
I know that Europeans come to Utah to ski, so I'm never going to go to Europe just for the skiing. I'll go for other reasons.
Yes. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel
too. We digress.
Anyway, so I have a meeting location.
Everyone gets
themselves there. That's really the only planning they have to do is just book their flights. Everything else is taken care of. I have all the accommodations set up, transportation. If we're in a country like Iceland or Norway, I'm generally driving, and then I have a helper that's also driving because normally we need 2 vehicles. Our groups are about 16 people all together. That includes myself and my helper. And that number has felt like a good number for me where I can make it profitable, but not too big of a group that it feels a little overwhelming for myself or the group, and not too small because I don't want to charge like astronomical amounts for these trips and then only attract like really, really wealthy people, because that's a whole nother clientele. But I want them to be like affordable, but like not budget, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm, and so we're staying in nicer places. But it kind of depends on the location too. And it depends on what we're doing. So in Norway, we stayed in these cute little cabins because that's kind of what you do there. They're called rubars, and there's like a little cabin, little fishing village overlooking the water. Incredible. But they're just cute little quaint cabins. And then sometimes we stay in hotels. I would say I steer away from any kind of big chain hotels because it's just not the kind of travel that I like to do. I really like more boutique like experiences and travel, or like eco lodges. And I also am very passionate about like sustainable eco travel and really supporting the local economy in the best way we can. And so I steer away from like Marriott's and places like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but just it's not my thing.
It's not your brand.
It's not my jam. And even as a family, that's what we've always done too. Like we're always, staying at little local places and just getting more of a local experience. And so, yeah, we stay sometimes in hotels, sometimes in Airbnbs, but in most countries, we're staying in some kind of hotel situation. And like I said, Norway was like cabins, but like it's essentially a hotel in the sense of, the name of the company, the lodging accommodation, but it's not an actual, like, it doesn't look like a hotel, if that makes sense. So it just depends. But in Peru, we trekked for 4 days and we camped and we were in a tent, but we had guides and porters that carried the gear. We had donkeys that carried the most of the gear, and then the porters and the guides set up our camp. And like, so I would say that my trips are not, they're not rustic on the level of like, you're going to pack your own gear. Not that I'm opposed to that, but I have learned through doing 20 trips now that my audience might need a little softer adventure. If that's probably the best way to describe it. And I've also seen there's like this balance, and I'm sure you guys would relate to this. Like I could do more hardcore, but like the bulk of my audience is not really into that. And so I have to like still make it true to me and my style of travel because that's what I do and that's authentic to me. But then I also have to appeal to like the majority. And so this has kind of been like my middle ground of like, I'm going to push you out of the comfort zone, but maybe it's not going to be like packing your own tent for 4 days. The actual hard is like the hike for 4 days in high altitude in the Andes, or in Norway, for example, I had this activity and it was an optional extra activity because I knew that this would not be an activity that everybody would want to do. And it was a rock climbing. Erik, you would have been all over this, but there's this climb in the Lofoten Islands called Svolvær, and I'll send you a link to it when we get off this, but they call it the goat. And it's this like spire. And I had read all these reviews about it, and I was like, oh yeah, we can totally do that. We're going to be with guides. Like I'm going to book it through local guides. Like we'll totally do this. This will be the hard thing. This will be like the main challenging thing on this trip. And I made it an optional activity. I had 9 women that signed up for it. And I could not believe how difficult and challenging this was. Like, even for me, who's done a lot of rock climbing, I wouldn't say I'm a rock climber like you are, but like I've done a fair amount of rock climbing. I'm decent at it,
Proficient. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm also like athletic and very strong physically. Like, and so I was like, oh yeah, I struggled. And so I was the first one to go. And then my helper was the second one. She's like me. She's also had a lot of experience. And we were both like, we get up to like the first pitch and we're like, I don't think all these women are going to be able to do this. And I was like,
thing when you got a lot of people stuck on the ground.
I was like, oh my gosh. And they're watching us. And I'm like, what do we get ourselves into? But every single one of them proved me wrong.
Wow.
And I didn't doubt all of them. There was just really a few that I doubted. And it was just because I didn't have really any experience, They're like, oh, I've been in like some indoor climbing gyms. And I was like, okay. But I'll tell you, like now I know that Norwegians, when they say something's easy, it's actually more on the moderate hard side. And if they say something's hard, it's like really hard. Like Norwegians are like a whole different breed. And it might be the Viking blood in them. I don't know, but they are freaking tough. And they don't believe in building trails with switchbacks. They just build trails straight up the mountain. And that's how you get up. And so we learned this and we would joke about it on the trip because we did a lot of hikes, but like the rock climbing adventure, which was on day 2, was next level. I think that was the most physically challenging thing that I've done in one day, because the multi-day treks are obviously challenging in like from a different way, but like one day challenge that I had done in any group trip. And I doubted some of those women and all of them got up to the top. And some of them were screaming. Some of them were crying. Some of them were like, what did I get myself into? But they saw the other women do it and they were like, I'm going to do this. And at the end of that, it was so magical to come together and bond and be like, and I was just like in tears. I was like, you guys, I can't believe you did that. Like that was amazing. And just to feel on top of the world, because it was like this amazing view on the top and just incredible experience. And that experience was like what reminded me of like, this is the heart that I want these women to experience. So I just choose activities like that are like going to push them a little bit, whether it's a hike, whether it's a via ferrata, whether it's a rock climbing, whether it's surfing. We were actually supposed to do Arctic surfing in Norway as well, but there was no waves the week that we were there because we had the most perfect, calm, blue sky every single day. And there was not one wave. Like it was just like flat. So we were supposed to go surfing, didn't get to do that. But I try to do things like that on every trip where it's like, they might not have a lot of experience doing that. But if they're saying yes to this, they're going to challenge themselves. And so that's the hard that I kind of try to do. And then, accommodations are nice. We eat at nicer places nicer restaurants, not like fancy restaurants, but, we're not eating like a lot of like street food type situations. Not that street food's bad. I love street food, but
no, but you women are like, show me the vegetables.
Yeah, like they're like, a lot of them haven't had experience. A lot of people that come on my trips don't have as much traveling internationally experience as I do. And so they're signing up because they're like, I feel safer going with the group. I like this idea that I'm not having to plan anything. And they're also like nervous about the food or drinking the water if it's in a developing country or whatever, getting sick. And I get that because I've had those same, fears as well in the past. And the more you travel, the less those fears, exist. But so I try to make it as comfortable and secure in that sense as possible, because I want them to have a vacation, even if they're going to end up feeling exhausted at the end of the vacation. But I want them to feel taken care of and to feel like they can relax and not have to worry about anything and be comfortable when they sleep, because women in their 40s and 50s need their sleep.
Yes.
We're going through perimenopause here and we need a good, comfortable bed. And so I've noticed that they really appreciate that. And if we have a couple nights roughing it because we're trekking, that's fine. but we're going to come back to like a nice hotel at the end of that trek, and we're going to just feel spoiled. And so it's like, I wouldn't say luxury. It's not luxury travel, but it's like adventure travel, but like comfortable in that sense.
Soft adventure.
Soft adventure. It's a good word, right? Soft adventure. I tone it down.
Yeah, write it down. And we always
I'm writing it down.
Soft adventure.
Once you go out of your comfort zone, it's really important to come back to a comfort zone where you can kind of reflect on what just happened. Totally. So it's nice to kind of hop in and out of that, almost like a cold plunge.
Yes.
To the sauna,
yes.
Right? Like,
yes. Exactly. So, well, and for also what I've noticed is that if you're not, especially when you get to that age, like we don't recover as quickly, you know? So if we're run down, we're not sleeping as well, we're getting sick because of the food we're eating or whatever, then the experience is not as great and profound for them. And granted, not that I want them to just be comfortable all the time, because I think you can still push them in other ways. But at the end of the day, I want them to get enough rest. I want them to be able to recover from the adventures and feel like they can do it, you know, and not be like, oh my gosh, why did I sign up for this? This is not what I can handle. You know, I want them to feel like they're capable of it. And like this last trip in Norway, which was actually been one of my favorite group trips ever. One, the destination, two, the women, the group, it just was all magic. But I challenged the women with 3 midnight sun hikes and also a midnight sun kayaking experience. Basically what that meant is we started the experience at 9 or 10 o'clock at night and then would be done at like 1 a.m. And so, but the reason why we did that was to experience the midnight sun, because the sun doesn't set for 2 months in the Arctic. And it's just the most magical experience ever when you get to see the sun go down, but not really fully down. And then to have golden light for hours. So as a photographer, I am like geeking out, like, oh my gosh, like I could just like, this is incredible. Hour lasts
for 4.5 hours.
Oh yeah. And then the sun comes back up. So we would get done with the hike at like 1, go back to our cabins, get in the ocean, have our cold plunge, because it felt so good, like on the joints, like the muscles after like a really hard hike. Because like I said, all the hikes were straight up a mountain, and then go in the sauna and then go to bed. But I didn't plan like early mornings the next day, because I was like, if we're going to do this in the middle of the night, we're going to not have an early morning the next day. So I think there's just a balance of like hardcore adventure and challenging yourself, but also resting and having that time to kind of recover and give themselves like the time they need to be able to do it again the next day.
I want to pull out something. I want to try and highlight something that I think you're doing, and a value that you add, a service that you provide that may not be obvious. Because I think we all need help to get to a next level in our lives. And we all have aspirations, all things that we want to experience or accomplish or become, but it's scary.
Yeah.
And I think what you provide is, and I hope you'll forgive the term, is you're sort of a midwife into a new experience. You know, anybody can buy a ticket, go to a place, book the event, you know, like the adventure. They might not know where to find it, and you know how to find it. But people can book hotels and find restaurants. But we want somebody to guide us through it. We want somebody to, in a way, hold our hands.
Yeah. Hold our hands.
And I think that is really a generosity. You know, when you're able to say, hey, this is something that I'm comfortable with, and so I can make it easy for you by guiding you through the experience. And so somebody who wants to step into the world that you've lived in can lean on you because they trust you. They've gotten to know your family. They've seen your photographs. They know your history. They trust you, and they'll say, I will go with Christina because I believe that I will have a great experience, even though I don't think I could do it on my own, but I could do it with her.
Yeah,
or
totally.
her handpicked
helper,
leaders,
or or you know, or honestly, somebody that you have trained.
Yeah.
And, you know, in an experience that you've curated is what I wanted to say.
Yeah,
curated. You know, you said, hey, these are the things, these are the gems that I've found traveling the world. I want to share them with you. I'm not going to be able to be there every time. And we experience that on our sailing trips.
I'm sure
as well.
You guys do. Yeah.
You know, it's for lots of people, you know, getting a boat, picking a route, meal planning, all that sort of stuff is very daunting. Getting a group together, because with a boat, you have to have a group for it to make economic sense.
Right.
And getting 6, 8, 10, 12 people it's hard.
Most people don't have that many friends who want to do it.
Yes.
At the same time as them.
Yeah. So just like you're talking about your family trips, trying to get a group together where budgets and schedules and everything align.
Oh, so hard.
You say, I'm going to do that heavy lifting for you. All you have to do is
show up,
make your deposit, make your payments, buy a plane ticket, and show up in this place at this time. I'll take care of you the rest of the day.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that is an incredible value. That's an incredible service. And we all need that in different ways in our lives, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
So speaking of that, maybe we'll ask some like a question that is smaller in scope, but then maybe take it to a bigger scope as well. So we don't want you to reveal all the secrets of your coaching, but if someone is thinking and they feel like they have a deep knowing or they're seeing those signs, like this call is matching my interests to maybe do something in the travel adventure space, what would be your counsel to them?
Well,
step, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's, it's a loaded question. There's a lot of layers to that, but I think for me, it's, if you can't stop thinking about something, like there's like this itch that you can't stop. Like, to me, that's the biggest sign that this is like a path that you should follow. And then I think essentially once you kind of decide, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Like for us, like traveling full time, we gave ourselves 3 years to kind of figure that out. And that doesn't mean that it needs to take you 3 years to make a big leap or decision like that. But for us, that's what felt right in the moment, was like, let's be realistic about this. Let's give ourselves 3 years to figure this out. And then it was just like one small step at a time, because when you look at the big picture, it's very overwhelming. You're like, how am I going to get from point A to point Z, right? Or even just point A to B. And for me, what helps is, yes, the big picture is important, like the vision, but really it's reverse engineering it and breaking down each piece of what that end goal is and being like, okay, so for us, it was like the biggest piece of the puzzle for us in traveling full time was figuring out the financial piece of that. It was like, how are we going to do that? Like, we don't have some big nest egg. We're not trust fund babies. We don't have a job that we can do remotely right now. So we got to figure that out, because that's the biggest piece of the puzzle that's going to make this work. And it was just like breaking that piece down first and figuring out, okay, what are some options that Erik could do potentially as a physical therapist that maybe we haven't even thought about or even knew about. And it was like being part of Facebook groups that we would find, or talking to other people that are in that space, and seeing what other opportunities were out there. And that just got the ball rolling. It was like just figuring out that little piece from talking, networking, joining Facebook groups, getting online, right? Doing some research. We didn't have ChatGPT back then, but we had Google at least, and we had social media. So that was helpful. And then for me, it was like, okay, how can I monetize my passion? And it was like, what made sense was to like, okay, I'm going to start a blog first, and that was the whole thing. And then starting a social media account and kind of trying to grow an audience online. It was like one small thing at a time. Like, I think people look at, and I've got this so many times, people look at my business and they're like, oh my gosh, how do you do all of that? Or how are you able to do all that? And I'm like, well, I didn't start with all this. Like, it started with one thing, and then it just one thing after another. And I really think that action comes from momentum, and the momentum is what leads to those results that you desire, right? So it's just like, you just reverse engineer everything. And like, so we would look at that and we're like, okay, what's next? We're kind of getting a handle on like what we're going to do financially. And it was like, what are we going to do with the house? Are we going to sell it? Are we going to rent it? Are we going to Airbnb it? Like, what does that look like? And it was just like taking all the big pieces out of that whole picture and just breaking them down into smaller, more doable tasks, I guess. And that momentum creates more confidence too, because when you start kind of creating that momentum and you're taking action, you're seeing the results of that. And then that builds that confidence to the next thing. And so it's like, there's no way that 8 years ago, I would have known that I would be doing what I'm doing right now. Like, there's no way. I would have even, if someone would have told me that, I'd been like, you're crazy. You're absolutely nuts. I mean, that's cool, but I don't know if I would have believed it. But it's like, but I now believe it because it was just one thing at a time. It's just like that momentum builds, and then it leads to the next thing, or another door opens. And so for me now, it's like I'm at this point in my business where I'm like, okay, there's certain things that don't align with me anymore. And I've only been holding on to them out of fear of letting go of that income, or fear of like an opportunity missed. But really, I'm trying to lean into, but what's really aligned with me right now and the direction I want to go, and making a decision off of that future person instead of who I am right now. And that's hard because we don't know who our future person is. We know who we want to become maybe, but it's hard to kind of step into that role sometimes. But it's really helped me to kind of make decisions on like my future person of who I want to be. What would that person do in this situation? Would she be holding on to something out of fear of letting go of that income? No, she wouldn't. And so that's helped me kind of make those decisions and like transition into the next phase of my business. And I think for anybody that's trying to do anything big in life, it doesn't have to be starting a business, but any kind of big dream you might have, it's like seeing the vision, but then breaking it down into smaller, like bite-sized pieces, and being realistic with those goals. And, because I think, yeah, you can accomplish a lot, but I think often we need to be like more realistic about like the time that it'll take to do that. And that's why we gave ourselves 3 years, because we were like, we're both working, our kids are in school. So it's not like we're just sitting around and have all this time to figure this all out, And so it's like, we're going to give ourselves 3 years. We're going to be realistic about it. And we're going to have a date, and we're going to like set that date. We're going to commit to figuring it out by then. And then I think just getting that momentum going. And so, yeah, anybody that's looking to make a big decision or start something new, I think set a date, set a goal, and start working backwards, small, one thing at a time. Don't look at like the big picture and think you got to figure it all out right now. Just like get that momentum going, because that momentum is going to create more clarity in what you're doing as well. So anyways, I don't know if that's helpful. I don't know if that answers your question.
That's a beautiful answer. And for anyone listening, everything Christina just said is true.
Yeah.
Like that is.
Yeah. You guys know, I mean, we talked about this on my podcast too.
But it's true. And when you have the big thing and then you reverse engineer and say, well, what's the first question I need to be asking?
Yes.
Then you start asking the right questions, and then you're like, oh, the answers are all over the place.
Totally.
I'm finding them everywhere now that I'm asking the right question, and then you take the next step. And I would say also, the more you do something like that on whatever scale, probably like for you, you then have confidence. Like you're saying, this is scary. I don't know what it's going to look like. Would future me do this? Because you have so much precedent of trusting without knowing, moving forward and being like, I have figured it out. I have a very high track record of figuring it out. So even though I know that it's going to be scary right now.
Yeah. Yep.
And I know that I will figure it out.
Yeah.
And figure it out just like trebuchets you into that future.
That's the coolest part about entrepreneurship to me, that has been the most unexpected thing of just like, I don't know. I mean, when you're first starting a business or any kind of entrepreneurial business, you're just like so imposter syndrome. Like, you're like, what am I doing? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then, the imposter syndrome still creeps up. And for me, it creeps up every time I'm about to do something new. And what I've seen is also when I'm ready to like level up, But what I was saying is like, you start and you're just like, I have no confidence in this. But when you get stuck in like the overthinking and like, I need to feel ready to do this, like that's not going to get you anywhere, because that overthinking or that overanalyzing or just waiting to be ready or waiting for everything to magically align or waiting to know it all before you do it, you're never going to start. And so it's just like taking that one step and that action towards you. Like when I coach my students, it's like, okay, what are your like great, like in terms of the business, like where are you the weakest, And a lot of them are like, well, I don't have like the strongest content yet. Okay, well then work to develop and improve that content so that you're more marketable. It's like pick something, start working towards it so that you know more, so that you have more experience, so that you have more confidence in that. And then that momentum creates the right direction and also clarity. Like for me, when I get overthinking, I'm like, I got to just take a step forward, because the clarity is going to come when I take a step forward.
So
Great.
I have a question as we start to get on the home stretch of this conversation. When you coach, who are you coaching and what do you coach them on? I know you've kind of given some like, this is how you approach moving into this space, but tell us what your niche is.
Well,
Funny you
ask.
Your perfect client.
Yeah, who's your perfect? If somebody's listening to this and you describe it, they're like, "Hey, that's me." They'll know who to go to. So who's your perfect coachee?
Well, I'm going to be honest. That perfect person or client, customer, whatever you want to call them, is actually changed.
Okay, all right.
It's not the same as what it was 5-6 years ago when I started coaching. It could be similar, but, I would say if you had asked me that question a year or two ago or 5 years ago, I would have been, the perfect person is someone that wants to travel more, that wants to create a business and lifestyle that allows them to travel more and to have those experiences as a family. And so, that perfect person for me is in that travel entrepreneurial space of, creating a business around travel content creation, whether that's blogging, whether that's photography or video, something in the travel creative space. That would be my ideal client. And it has been, I've coached over like 1,200 people now in that space, and I've had a lot of successful students, and I'm just so happy and grateful to have been a small part of that journey for them. But that person has actually changed as of recently, because I'm moving more into more mindset entrepreneurial coaching. And it's really what my podcast is more about, which is why I wanted you guys on my podcast back when you guys were on my podcast. Was I'm really looking to be more into the mindset coaching piece of the entrepreneurship journey, especially for women. And I still think that my current customer in my program can be that person, but it's maybe a little broader in the sense of I'm not coaching the nuances of building a business based around travel now. It's more of, I want to help you achieve your greatest potential as not just an entrepreneur, but as a person, to feel like you're fulfilling your purpose, you're fulfilling your soul's mission in this entrepreneurial space, whatever that is. And I know, just as an entrepreneur myself, I know you guys know this too, mindset is everything. It's everything. And if I wasn't doing that inner work to develop the right mindset, I wouldn't be where I am. And what I see in a lot of new entrepreneurs is they're all about give me the hack, give me the strategy, give me the step-by-step program. And not that that's not important, because it is. But what I have seen is that the successful people, the ones that are actually seeing the most success, are the ones that have the right mindset.
And when you're talking about success, I'm thinking, tell me where I'm wrong. You're not just talking about
revenue, no,
profitable,
no,
but you're saying my business is in alignment with my life.
Yes.
And so it feels fulfilling.
Yes.
And maybe it does. Sometimes even there's a sense of ease. Maybe not, because it is entrepreneurship, but just that this is not robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
This is my life and my work.
Because your work shouldn't feel like work. If you truly are in alignment with what you do, and then it doesn't feel like work. It's fun. It's fulfilling. Does that mean that it's easy all the time? No, it doesn't mean it's easy, because I know what you guys do and what I do is not easy. But I love it. It fills my cup, because I'm doing something that's purposeful. I'm doing something that is making an impact in a positive way. I'm bringing people together to have this experience. And I feel like it's bringing all of my strengths and this is it. This is the thing that is going to help people elevate to whatever level that is. And I think that is what I really want to help women do, is help them elevate themselves so that they can elevate others in whatever way that looks like for them. Because if you really are in alignment with what that purpose is and what that path is, it's the magic. That's where the magic happens. And I think we just get so stuck in success is money, or success is in doing all these different things. But really, success is what does that look like for you? For me, it's contentment and having feeling like I'm fulfilling a purpose and feeling like I'm making an impact. That's what success looks like for me. And I just really want people to really like feel that in themselves and get out of their heads about what success should look like or where they should be in their business, or just the minutia of like the grind, right? Like it's a grind. And this year has been for me an unraveling of seeing where I've had patterns in my business that were I should say like the lack or the scarcity has showed up. I've made decisions based on scarcity instead of making decisions based on who's that future self, who feels the most aligned, the most in tune with myself and what my calling is on like here on earth, like what God has in plan for me, like who is that person? And then figuring out, okay, well, I made this decision not with that future person and self. I was thinking about, oh, I just need the money, so I'm going to do this. And I really want to help women kind of unravel that piece too, because scarcity shows up everywhere. And it's been the biggest limiting belief for me.
Scarcity is everywhere.
Wait, are you
It's
saying
everywhere.
there's an abundance of scarcity right now?
Yes. And when you're like willing to peel back the layers of that scarcity, like for me, I was always like, oh, I'm such an abundant person because I really am like a very positive, optimistic person, high energy. I mean, of course, like I have my moments, but when I've really been like digging deeper within myself, I see that every single limiting belief that I've ever had about myself is all lack. It's all scarcity. And even scarcity of time, being overwhelmed is a lack, right? It's like, where's that coming from? And so I really want to help women uncover that too, because I think you can't become that version of yourself that you want to be without undoing the scarcity patterns that are probably in your life that you don't even realize, you know? So I know that was a lot, but that's really kind of what I'm working on next, like is figuring out what that looks like. And I feel like it's my path. So that's what I'm working on.
What an honor. Thank you so much for sharing that with us today. If anybody want to follow Christina on Instagram,
I'm just figuring it out. So you might not.
Coaching situation, she will push you and take you places that she has not been afraid to go herself.
I want to say one little quick thing that I think is really important for people listening, whether it's an entrepreneurial thing or not. I think you could apply this in life, is if you're stuck, like if you're feeling unsure about your path, and like I said, it could be just in life. It doesn't have to be like a business thing. Look for signs. Like for me, looking for signs and being open to what those signs are is like the most powerful way to know like that I'm on the right track. And when I open myself up to seeing those signs, whether you not believe in a God or the universe, whatever you want to believe, I believe that you will be shown those signs when you're open to those signs. And the more I see those signs, the more I realize that they're all around us, but we have to be open to them. And the signs are there pointing us in that direction, you know? It's like even this conversation with you guys to me is a sign. It's like, this is a sign that this is the direction that I should go. And I see quotes, I have conversations with people, an opportunity comes, and it's like, these are all signs. And so like, if you're unsure or feeling stuck, like be open to signs of where's the universe, where's God trying to lead me. And I think once you do that, like you start seeing them like rapid fire, and it's like crazy, like how everything is pointing in this direction for you, you know? And if you can't stop thinking about something, like that's a sign. Like there's just so many synchronicities and signs out there, but we have to be open to them to receive them and to recognize them.
Before we go to final questions or comments, first of all, I agree with you 100%. You know, I don't know if I'm assuming you've read The Alchemist.
Oh, one of my favorite books.
And what you're saying reminds me of looking for omens. So if you're hearing this and you don't know what Christina's talking about, go pick up a copy of The Alchemist, and that will clarify.
Such a good book.
And I'm with you on that. So if people want to, we'll put in the show notes, but just say it out loud. What's your Instagram handle? Where can they find you if they want to learn more about what you're up to?
So my Instagram handle, my main one is Max Explore. McEvoy's our last name. Max is kind of like our nickname, and it's Max with an underscore and then Explore. But that's my main handle right now. I am going to be expanding a little bit as my group trips evolve. I need to create a new like handle for that. Now that I finally have a name for my group trips, because I've been struggling to like have a name for these group trip experiences, but it just barely came to me, you guys, like a couple weeks ago. And so I will be starting a new account for that. But my Max Explore account has my website on there.
And that's Max, MACS.
Yeah. And then underscore Explore. Yeah. I had to put an underscore there because when I was first creating the name, I realized that when you see Max Explorer without a space, you see the word sex in there.
With you.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, we don't want to give people the wrong impression here. So it's like Max.
The underscore is perfectly placed. Now you'll never forget it.
Now you'll never forget it.
So, so they know where to find you. And we'll put that in the show notes. Emily, I'm curious. Do you have any final questions?
I've had all my questions for now. Yeah.
Christine, is there anything you want to just mention that we didn't ask about or that you think is important to say?
Well, I probably said too much, so I'm going to just shut my mouth now. But you guys are amazing. And thank you for just giving me this opportunity to like I said, like for me, just talking about this and like, it's such a sign like that I'm in the right place and space. And I feel like meeting you guys was a sign. Like, I really believe that God, the universe, whatever you believe in, puts these people in your path for a reason. And you're going to learn something from them. And maybe it's not a good thing. Sometimes it's a hard lesson, but it's still something important. And so meeting you guys and having this opportunity is like such an honor and privilege. And I really have enjoyed like seeing and learning about your journey more. And I loved having you on my podcast. So I'm glad that I was able to have this opportunity to do the same for you guys. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. Such a privilege to have you. It's
been a delight having this conversation. And I think just to wrap it up, you talk about clarity comes from taking action and about momentum. And I think that we get the courage to take that momentum, to take that step, and which gets us to the clarity when we ask the question, what could go right? And so as you think about what we've talked about today with Christina, I hope listeners, you will ask yourself, what could go right? And then take that step to get to your clarity. So thanks so much, Christina.
Hey guys, it's Erik. Before we wrap up today, I want to go over the sailing update. For those of you that are interested in sailing with us, I want you to know what is available. So we do have a few spots left for 2025. And then we've also got a bunch of trips to announce for 2026. So buckle up. There's a few to run through here. Our Greece trip, which is happening in later July, is sold out. So that one is now no longer available. And our Croatia trip, I think, is also sold out. People have said they're going to send me deposits today as of this recording. So I think that one is sold out. If you're interested, check in with me. Just hit me a DM, send me a DM, or email me at erik@theawesomefactory.nyc, and we can let you know what's available there. However, we do have some cabins available for our October trip, Mexico, La Paz. Beautiful, one of my favorite places to go. You should listen to our podcast episode a couple back where we talk about why it's the most underrated, but one of the most beautiful trips we do. So October 20th through the 25th, we'll be in La Paz, Mexico. Then in November, we've got one spot in our BVI trip for a female spot, November 10th through the 15th. Again, I think that one's going to fill up. There's lots of people looking at that. And December 8th through the 13th, we're in the Bahamas, 1.5 cabins, one full cabin plus a female spot. Again, we've got a few folks interested in that, but at the moment, as of this recording, those are available. So if you want to go sailing with us in 2025, those are your options. And now for 2026, if you need to look further out, here you go. British Virgin Islands, January 5th through the 10th. You'll fly in and out of St. Thomas. We're going to be back again a few weeks later, January 26th through the 31st. So 2 chances to sail in the BVI in January. Hopping over February to March, we're going to go to French Polynesia. It's an amazing place. I haven't been there since 2017, so a number of years. It's a fantastic trip. Not gonna lie, it's by far the most expensive trip. It's gonna be a one-way from an island called Raiatea out to Bora Bora. So you fly to Tahiti, get a hopper over to Raiatea. We're gonna sail over to Bora Bora, and then we fly back from there home. So we're not gonna be doing this one again for quite a while. So if you're interested in that, March 8th through the 14th, French Polynesia. We are back in the Bahamas, April 13th through the 18th. This time we're going to go to the Abacos, which is different than where we normally go. So it's going to be a pretty special trip, and I'm excited about that. That wraps up our spring. In the summer, we jump back over to the Med. In June, we're going to be back in Italy, Naples, repeating the trip that we did this year. So fun, so beautiful. June 6th through the 13th. Then in July 11th through the 18th, we will be in Greece. We'll sail in and out of Athens. And then in August 1st through the 8th, we're going to go to Croatia again. So, and then, not spoiler alert, but special bonus feature in September 26th, 2026, we're going to go to Italy for a second time, September 12th through the 19th. It's the shoulder season. All the kids are back in school. Most of the tourists have taken off, but the weather is still gorgeous. So there's 2 chances to go to Italy. BVI in January, French Polynesia in March, Bahamas in April, Italy in June, Greece in July, Croatia in August, and then Italy again in September. So if any of those are of interest to you, email us. I'll give the correct email. hello@theawesomefactory.nyc, theawesomefactory.nyc. And that way, me and the folks that help me out will see that. And we'll get you information, or if you want to ping me on social media, you can DM us and we'll get you details. But if any of those are interest, would love to see if having you aboard is a good fit. So that is the sailing update. Thanks.
I was thinking about it like 2 days ago. I'm like, how easy is it to go with a group of people that are your best friends? Go and have fun, go on a boat, go on a hike, go wherever, climb to a church. I mean, it's easy. I think it's pretty easy with people that you know and you love anyway. But doing a trip like this with people you don't all know or don't know at all, and then it comes out like that is really good. That's worth so much more than with people that you actually know already.